dear students, welcome back. And today we are meeting to start up a new chapter from your book Snapshot. And I'm going to take up lesson number 1 from it. And the title of the chapter is The Summer of the Beautiful White Horse, written by William Saroyan. Now, this is a story of two tribal Armenian boys who belong to the Gargalian tribe. And for their family, even at times of extreme poverty, nothing could match the importance of honesty. They never did anything wrong and never lied or never even stole anything. And the story talks about an incident that revolves around two cousins, Aram, who is 9 years old, and Murad, who is 13. And they both were longing to ride a horse but could not afford to buy it, and henceforth Murad stole it for taking a ride. Now Aram had also started learning it. They were too honest to be and yet too crazy to ride a horse, and they thought of returning it after taking the riding lessons, although it pricked their conscience to steal, which was completely against their ethics and tribal norms. So the story teaches us the importance and necessity of honesty and trust, even in the face of greed and passion. So let's start this beautiful story, and I want you to listen to it attentively. Let's begin the chapter. So this is the chapter, dear students. And before starting up the chapter, I would like to tell you a bit about the author, the narrator. As I told you in the introduction, the name of the author is William Saroyan, and he is one of the well-known American fiction writers. He took inspiration from the writings of his father and started writing short stories. A number of his stories portray his childhood experiences among the Armenian American fruit growers of the San Joaquin Valley. Some deal with the feelings of rootlessness of the immigrants. And being the son of an Armenian immigrant, he knew what it was to be an immigrant. So the Summer of the Beautiful White Horse brings out vividly the vivacious and never say die spirit of the Armenian people. So the story points out that it is not easy to decide what is right and what is wrong. It vividly describes a constant contrast between the values of the old world and those of the new world. Now let's begin the chapter. One day back, there in the good old days, when I was 9 and the world was full of every imaginable kind of magnificence, and life was still a delightful and mysterious dream, my cousin Murad, who was considered crazy by everybody who knew him except me, came to my house at 4 in the morning and woke me up, tapping on the window of my room. Aram, he said. I jumped out of the bed and looked out of the window. I couldn't believe what I saw. It wasn't morning yet, but it was summer, and with daybreak, not many minutes around the corner of the world, it was light enough for me to know I wasn't dreaming. So Aram, who is the narrator of the story, is a 9 years old boy, and he is very fond of horses. So in the opening paragraph, he is telling you that the one day when he was asleep and was in the world of extremely beautiful imagination, his life was pleasant and kind of in a mysterious dream. His cousin Murad showed up on the window of his room at 4 in the morning, and he called Aram, who jumped out of his bed and still couldn't believe what he saw out of the window. It was dawn, and there was light enough outside to make him see outside what made him believe he wasn't dreaming, as he is using the word magnificence. His life was full of every imaginable and magnificence here stands for extremely beautiful life. He further tells you that Murad, who was very affectionate towards him, was 13 years old, and somewhat he was considered as crazy, but very confident and adventurous. And he was ready to take risk and even break rules if they did not cause any harm. And he had a way with animals, birds, and farmers, you will find in the story later on. So he was considered as a crazy boy by the whole tribe, and he was always ready to take up all kinds of risk to fulfill his desires and dreams if it is not harming anyone. So he was that kind of boy. Now further he says, my cousin Murad was sitting on a beautiful white horse. I stuck my head out of the window and rubbed my eyes. Yes, he said in Armenian, it is a horse. You are not dreaming. Make it quick if you want to ride. Now, Armenian is an official language of Armenia. So what he saw, Aram has seen there that Murad was sitting on a white horse, and Aram rubbed his eyes and stuck out his head out of the window, and Murad assured him that it was not a dream, and he asked if he wanted a ride, he must make it quick. He further says, I knew my cousin Murad enjoyed being alive more than anybody else who had ever fallen into the world by mistake, but this was more than even I could believe. In the first place, my earliest memories had been memories of horses, and my first longing had been longing to ride. So this was the wonderful part. Now he is telling you here that Murad was the type of a person who enjoyed being alive, but he couldn't believe that he was seeing a horse in front of him. And Aram's earliest memory was of horses, and he always wanted to ride one. And this was the wonderful part, that he was actually going to ride a horse for real. As the word longing he is writing, longing means an aching desire. From the last, right from his childhood, he had been in a longing, he had been in the desire to ride a horse. And fortunately, luckily, this day, he was seeing a white, beautiful horse standing in front of him, and he was ready to ride it. So this was his everlasting dream which he wanted to fulfill. Now further he says, in the second place, we were poor. This was the part that wouldn't permit me to believe what I saw. We were poor, we had no money, our whole tribe was poverty stricken. Every branch of the Gargalian family was living in the most amazing and comical poverty in the world. Nobody could understand where we ever got money enough to keep us with the food in our bellies, not even the old men of the family. Most important of all, though we were famous for our honesty, we had been famous for our honesty for something like 11 centuries, even when we had been the wealthiest family in what we liked to think was the world. We were proud first, honest next, and after that we believed in right and wrong. None of us would take advantage of anybody in the world, let alone steal. Now, Gargalian is an Armenian tribe, and he's telling you in this paragraph that his family was poor and had no money. So it was difficult for him to believe in what he saw outside the house. He belonged to the Gargalian family, and that was strictly and funnily in poverty. Okay, and they didn't even know how they managed to get food for themselves every day. Although his tribe was poor, they were known for their honesty for 11 centuries. And they were honest, proud, and always believed in right and wrong. No one from their family would ever steal anything or would take advantage of anyone in the world. Then he says, consequently means as a result of something, no? So consequently, even though I could see the horse, so magnificent, even though I could smell it, so lovely, even though I could hear it breathing, so exciting, I couldn't believe the horse had anything to do with my cousin Murad, or with me, or with any of the other members of our family. Asleep or awake, because I knew my cousin Murad couldn't have bought the horse, and if he couldn't have bought it, it must have stolen it. And I refused to believe he had stolen it. No member of the Gargalian family could be a thief. I stared first at my cousin and then at the horse. There was a pious stillness and humor. Pious means religious, holy, you may say, something which is related to holiness. A pious stillness and humor in each of them, which on the one hand delighted me and on the other frightened me. So Aram was so excited that he was seeing a horse that was so pleasant and beautiful. He could smell it and hear it breathing, and still couldn't believe that Murad or anyone in the family could afford a horse. He was thinking if Murad had stolen the horse, but he didn't believe it as he thought no one in his family could be a thief. He stared at his cousin and then at the horse, and there was religious motionlessness and witness in both Murad and the horse, as one charmed him and the other scared him. Murad, I said, where did you steal this horse? Leap out of the window, he said, if you want to ride. It was true then. He had stolen the horse. There was no question about it. He had come to invite me to ride or not, as I chose. So Murad Aram asked if Murad if he had stolen the horse. So Murad replied, if he wants a ride, he must jump out of the window. As he is writing, leap out. Leap out means jump out from a place. So Murad had asked Aram to come out, to jump out of the window. And by this time, Aram was convinced that the horse was stolen by Murad. And he came to visit him to ask him to ride it with him. So here we are finding that Murad had no intention of accepting this fact that yes, he had stolen the horse. So we are leaving our discussion here, dear children, and in the next video, in the next part, we shall resume our discussion from the next paragraph. Till then, goodbye.